Food is the only foreign substance we willingly put into our body daily. When we eat food, it is broken down into its constituent parts as it goes down our digestive system, which is essentially one really long tube. If you take this tube from mouth to anus and stretch it out into a straight line, it will be 30 feet long. That's 5 Amitabh Bachchans. Just your small intestine is 22 feet long. That's 4 Salman Khans. All of us eat twice or thrice every single day of our lives. So this single long tube has to take anything you throw at it. From samosas to prawns to pizzas to kaju katli to pan, and extract sugars, amino acids, fatty acids, vitamins, minerals, and other micronutrients, and discard the rest while preventing you from getting poisoned. And if you live to be 80 years old, this tube will have done its job 87,600 times. So it's not surprising that occasionally things can go wrong. In this video, we will see the most common things that go wrong when you eat food. But before we start, an important disclaimer. This is science education, not medical advice. If you experience any of the problems described here, go see a doctor. Disclaimer 2. This video focuses on average healthy people with no diagnosed food allergies. I will make a separate video explaining how food allergies work. In this video, we will track food as it goes from your mouth down the esophagus into the stomach and then onward to the small intestine where nutrients are absorbed from food, and finally the large intestine where your gut bacteria digest the things you cannot digest. Let's start with the mouth. Indian food is significantly higher in carbohydrates than many other cuisines, and we eat a lot of sugar. Bits of those will stay around the gaps in your teeth, and if you do not brush regularly, these bacteria will go, oh my god, unlimited buffet, and eat and multiply. And as they multiply, they produce lactic acid. Yes, the same acid produced by the bacteria that ferment milk into dahi, curd. Acids dissolve and erode enamel over time, eventually leading to cavities. Fun fact, fluoride ions react with the surface of your enamel, which is made of a material called hydroxyapatite, to form fluoroapatite, which is way more resistant to acids. This is why toothpastes contain fluoride. And in many countries, they add a tiny bit to the water supply itself. Thanks to fluoride in our toothpastes, cavities have gone down by over 60% in many parts of the world. And you can cause damage to your enamel by directly consuming very sour things. Sourness is acids, like carbonated beverages and that silly fad of consuming apple cider vinegar and so on, which is why your teeth feel sensitive after eating very sour fruits. This is why dentists will often recommend using a straw to drink lime juice than let the drink slosh around your teeth for too long. So now let's hear from Dr. Paramjeet Singh, who runs the excellent Doctor Education channel, on the basics of how digestion begins in the mouth.
So hi everybody. The initial digestive process begins in your mouth, where your saliva plays a crucial role. Your salivary gland produces a fluid which is rich in enzymes like salivary amylase, lingual lipase. These enzymes help break down the carbohydrates and fat respectively. Salivary amylase breaks down the complex carbohydrates into simple sugars, and while the lingual lipase initially digests fats. Saliva also basically contains mucin that lubricates, and it forms a cohesive bolus for easier swallowing. Additionally, it also has antimicrobial properties because of the enzyme lysozyme. It helps to reduce the risk of infections as well. And saliva also has buffering capacity to maintain a neutral pH in your mouth, protecting your teeth from the acids. It also aids in taste perception by dissolving the food particles, allowing your taste buds to detect flavors. So proper chewing is essential for this process. When food is not chewed adequately, larger pieces enter the stomach and intestine, making it harder for your digestive enzymes to break down the nutrients efficiently. This can lead to incomplete digestion, causing issues like bloating, gas, and nutrient malabsorption. Poorly chewed food can also strain the digestive tract, as large food particle may not be broken down as effectively. This leads to discomfort and potential digestive disturbances. Therefore, thorough chewing not only aids the mechanical breakdown of the food but also ensures optimal enzymatic activity and nutrient absorption. And once you chew properly, now the food enters your esophagus, which is your food pipe, which uses something called peristalsis to push the food down. Yes, it's not gravity, which is why you can technically still swallow while hanging upside down. Although, please don't try that. It's like when you try to get the last bit of the toothpaste out and you squeeze before where the toothpaste is and push the paste forward. And then you squeeze again right before it is, again and again. This is exactly what your muscles in your esophagus do to your food. It contracts, relaxes in a wave-like motion to push the food down. And the most important problem here that can occur is that there is a flap, a small flap at the end of esophagus that opens when food needs to go inside the stomach and closes afterward to prevent the food from coming back up in from the stomach into the food pipe. That's because the stomach contains an insanely strong acid to kill microbes and break down food. And if this acid comes back into the esophagus, it will damage the esophageal lining. And this can lead to a sensation called heartburn. Yes, it has nothing to do with the heart.
Fun fact, the acid from your stomach triggers the same TRPV1 receptors that chilies in your mouth do, which is why your brain interprets it as a burn. And here is the tricky question. What causes heartburn? And unfortunately, there are no easy answers. It is estimated that 20% of the population has this problem where food from the stomach will regularly come up the esophagus because the flap called the lower esophageal sphincter does not function properly. And genetics and obesity are believed to be factors. And overeating, pregnancy, and eating late at night can also trigger it. And because of that uncertainty, influencers on social media will tell you things like spicy food, fatty food, lot of meat, coffee, alcohol, and chocolate cause this. They don't, but they can trigger the existing problem. If you do not have the underlying condition, there is no evidence that these foods will cause this problem. So let's hear from Dr. Paramjeet on the things that can go wrong in your stomach.
Now, the food gets into the stomach. Stomach produces an insanely strong hydrochloric acid that could just melt and dissolve tissues, including the stomach tissue. But it is protected by a mucus lining that is acid resistant. And the most important problem here is the inflammation of the stomach lining. And when that happens, you have stomach aches, vomiting sensations, or sometimes ulcers. These are called gastritis. Now, a lot of us believe that very spicy or oily food causes this, and that, it turns out, is not true. The most common cause here is a bacteria called Helicobacter pylori. This has to be one of the most astonishing living thing on the planet because it literally lives inside the strong acid. And it does that by breaking down urea that it takes from your blood into ammonia, which then neutralize the acid near its vicinity and thus creating a pocket of a hospitable space around it. And because it's a foreign object, it triggers the immune system, which causes inflammation in your stomach lining. The second most common cause of gastritis is overconsumption of painkillers, medicines like paracetamol, aspirin, ibuprofen. It turns out that these drugs prevent the production of prostaglandins that protect the stomach lining.
Incidentally, Helicobacter pylori is also the primary cause of the second most common food-related problem in the stomach, ulcers, which are sores in the inner lining of the stomach. Now, when you have this underlying condition, hot and spicy food is going to make symptoms worse because capsaicin causes the stomach to produce more acid, which then irritates the already inflamed lining of your stomach. So remember, it's not the cause, but if you react badly to spicy food, then you might want to check for the real problem, Helicobacter pylori.
And from the stomach, we now move to the small intestine. This is the place where all your food is finally broken down into its basic components: sugars, amino acids, and fatty acids. And then they are absorbed into your blood. Two of the most common problems. The single most common small intestine related problem in India is what happens if you are not from North or West India and drink a lot of milk. Milk contains a sugar called lactose. In nature, mammals produce milk to feed their young, and there is an evolutionary need to make sure that this child does not keep depending on the breast milk for too long, because that would make the mother and child vulnerable to predators. So the goal here is for the child to start eating solid food that it hunts or gathers as soon as possible. To force this issue, all mammals have a gene that ensures that we first reduce and stop producing lactase, the enzyme required to digest lactose in milk. So yes, in nature, many mammals lose the ability to digest milk to certain extent after being weaned from their mother. So please don't give your cats or dogs milk because they might not digest it as well.
A small group of humans in Central Asia that had a very strong dairy culture some 5 to 6,000 years ago developed a genetic mutation that allowed them to digest milk well into adulthood. And those people migrated and populated North and West India and also Northern Europe. The rest of us do not produce enough lactase, and milk stays undigested and goes down to the large intestine where it is happily consumed by bacteria that produce methane, carbon dioxide, and some other gases, causing bloating and diarrhea. So one common pattern you see in the small intestine, stuff that is not digested fully can cause problems because it will go down to the large intestine and gut bacteria will ferment and eat it. Now, in the case of things like soluble fiber in vegetables and fruits, that's actually great for you because the bacteria produce outputs that are very good for us. But in cases like milk, not so good. The second problem that can occur when we eat wheat, barley, or rye, which contain a protein called gluten, which is what makes bread or chapati possible because it is stretchy. Now, gluten itself is made up of two proteins, gliadin and glutenin. In the small intestine, all proteins are broken down into individual amino acids before being absorbed into the blood. Now, it turns out that gliadin causes the production of another protein called zonulin that regulates junctions between intestinal cells. So, it increases the permeability of the gut. This one isolated fact is often misused by scaremongering influencers to claim that all wheat consumption causes leaky gut. That is not true. In most healthy people, a tiny amount of undigested gliadin passes through the gut, and over time, we build a tolerance for that. However, if you're someone that has a specific gene, then there is a chance that when the undigested gliadin gets into your blood, your immune system goes, "Oh my God, foreigner," and attacks it with huge intensity. And that causes inflammation that we now associate with bloating, diarrhea, etc. This is called celiac disease. And incidentally, only 1 to 2% of the population reacts this badly. And some 5 to 6% of people will develop some small reaction to gliadin being undigested. So if chapati or bread does not cause problems for you, go ahead and enjoy your life and ignore gluten-free nonsense. Let's again hear from Dr. Paramjeet on more food-related problems that can happen in the small intestine.
One of the most serious gut disorders is inflammatory bowel disease. Although It is not very common, but inflammatory bowel disease or IBD occurs when immune system cells in the gut overreact to a perceived threat to your body. Often that threat are basically the normal bugs that make up your microbiome and other microscopic creatures like bacteria, fungi, or viruses that live in your gut. This overreaction can actually damage your digestive tract. There are two main types of IBD: ulcerative colitis and Crohn's disease. Crohn's disease can occur anywhere in your digestive tract from your mouth to anus, and ulcerative colitis mostly happens in your large intestine. These two diseases also differ in how deeply they can damage the tissues. Ulcerative colitis causes damage in your gut lining, and Crohn's disease can go all the way through the gut and cause holes in your gut.
As serious as that sounds, it's not very common. On the other hand, what is very common is gas. Intestinal gas is a topic that people often find difficult to discuss, but we all have gas in our intestinal tract. Gas can contribute to a sense of bloating, fullness, belching, abdominal cramps, and flatulence. These symptoms are usually brief and resolve once gas is released by belching or flatulence. Some people can be more sensitive to even normal amounts of gas and develop the above symptoms. Belching is a normal process and results from swallowed air accumulating in the stomach. The air can either be belched back or can be passed out of the stomach into the small intestine and subsequently be passed as flatulence. Bloating refers to a sense of fullness in the upper abdomen. This can be influenced by gas and or food accumulation in the stomach. Some people experience the symptom even with normal amounts of gastric gas. Flatulence refers to the passage of rectal gas. The gas is generally a combination of swallowed air and gases produced by the action of gut bacteria on undigested carbohydrates. Gas which accumulates in the right upper portion of the colon can lead to pain, which could seem like gallbladder pain, but it's just gas. Gas which accumulates in the left upper portion of the colon can radiate up to the chest and seem like cardiac pain. Again, it's just gas.
We all swallow air during the process of eating. And if you're sucking on hard candies and chewing gums, you can actually have an excess of air swallowing. Drinking carbonated beverages such as sodas or beer can also generate excess gastric air. And individuals who experience anxiety may also swallow air excessively. Poor fitting dentures or chronic postnasal drip can also cause excess air swallowing. As a result, significant amount of gas can enter the stomach and small bowels in 24 hours and can lead to a lot of belching, bloating, and flatulence. Another cause of bloating and abdominal distension is bacterial overgrowth. This is not exactly an infection, but occurs when there is an excess amount of normal bacteria in your small intestine. This results in increased production of intestinal gas, contributing to the above symptoms. Finally, underlying constipation, if you have constipation, may also contribute to the bloating and a sense of abdominal distension. So there can be multiple reasons for your stomach related digestive problems, and you have to look into all of them and the possibilities of a lot of combinations happening there.
So, in summary, 1. Chew your food well. 2. Drink acidic, sour things with a straw. 3. Brush your teeth regularly. 4. If you experience heartburn or ulcers, do not self-medicate or follow social media advice. Get yourself checked for Helicobacter bacteria in your stomach. Spicy food does not cause this problem, but it can make it feel worse if you have the underlying infection. 5. Don't take ibuprofen and paracetamol like it's some Hajmola candy. 6. If you are South or East Indian, check if reducing milk consumption reduces digestive problems. 7. Unless you are in the 5 to 6% of people on the planet who are sensitive to gluten, eating chapatis and bread is fine. 8. If your diet does not include enough fiber, I suggest you watch my video on fiber, then food can get clogged and move very slowly through your large intestine. And this is called constipation. So make sure your diet includes lots of vegetables and fruits. 9. IBS is not as common as you are made to believe because the few people that have it tend to be disproportionately active on social media sharing their experiences, which is fine, but it gives the impression that it is more common than not. And most influencers come up with completely unverified causes and cures for IBS, most of which are not true. 10. Intestinal gas is exceedingly common and in most situations not a problem. It can be awkward socially, but relax. Remember this: the human body is amazing. 90% of problems your body has the ability to fix and repair by itself. It takes extraordinarily special conditions like infections, etc., to do any serious damage. Our fears are entirely manufactured, and it's like being afraid of a tiny ant biting you. We have 3 billion years of evolution and a number of backup plan B pathways at every level: cellular, tissue, organ, and systemic, to fix problems. Our liver and kidneys are some of the most sophisticated detoxing organs on the planet. And the immune system is a marvel that deserves its own video. And on top of that, we have 2 centuries of modern medicine understanding the causes of the most common problems and precise solutions to those. So stop getting anxious when random influencers tell you eating X will cause cancer, eating Y will cause IBS. I am not asking you to blindly trust doctors, but trust in the process, data, evidence, and peer review, all of which is publicly available. The goal of this channel is to explain the published and peer-reviewed science in simple terms. Reading science is like eating a healthy meal. Your digestive system works like clockwork. Getting knowledge from fearmongers on social media is like eating junk food. It feels delicious and correct at the moment you consume it, but it is not good for you on the long run.